Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Brooklynite TV podcast, where we dive deep into the most pressing political issues of our time. I'm Frank, and today I want you to join me as we take a closer look at Vice President Kamala Harris, her role as border czar, and examining the implications of her policies on immigration, drug trafficking, and overall governance, and why she's the wrong choice for this country. With rising concerns about her effectiveness and the impact of a left-leaning agenda, we unpack what a potential presidency could mean for America. Kamala Harris is the first female vice president and the first Black and South Asian vice president in the U.S. history. She's faced criticism for what some perceive as flip-flopping on various issues. Throughout her political career, Kamala Harris has faced scrutiny for her evolving positions on key issues such as criminal justice reform, health care, and immigration, which has led to accusations of inconsistency. Early in her career as a prosecutor, Harris adopted tough-on-crime stances that drew criticism, particularly from progressives who later felt her shift towards reformative policies, such as advocating for alternatives to incarceration and promoting restorative justice, lacked authenticity. Similarly, her views on health care have shifted. While she initially supported a more moderative approach, she later endorsed Medicare for All, which raised questions about her commitment to that position. On immigration, her past support for certain enforcement measures contrasted with her later calls for more humane policies, contributing to perceptions of a lack of coherence in her platform. These changes have made it difficult for some voters to trust her sincerity and commitment to the issues, fueling the narrative that she may prioritize political expediency over steadfast principles. For instance, during her presidential campaign, she initially supported Medicare for All, but later clarified her stance to focus on a more moderate approach. Critics argue that this inconsistency undermines her credibility, while supporters contend that her views reflect a responsive and evolving understanding of complex issues. This dynamic has contributed to the ongoing debate about her leadership style and political priorities. Critics have also urged that Vice President Kamala Harris has not taken significant action to address pressing issues facing this country. Some believe that her role has been more symbolic than substantive, focusing on messaging rather than implementing tangible policies. While she's spoken on key topics such as immigration reform, voting rights, and economic equity, detractors point to a lack of concrete results or initiatives that directly address these challenges. Kamala Harris's speaking style often elicits strong reactions, particularly when it comes to her tendency to use what some critics call word salads. This phenomenon is characterized by her propensity to respond to questions with lengthy, convoluted statements that seem to make no sense and dance around the actual query rather than addressing it directly. Instead of providing a clear and concise answer, she frequently resorts to reiterating certain phrases or concepts, which can lead to listeners to feel as though they're not receiving genuine insights or clarity. This pattern can frustrate both supporters and detractors, as it appears to undermine her ability to engage in straightforward dialogue, especially on complex issues that demand nuance and precision. Moreover, this tendency to evade direct questions often creates an impression of evasiveness or lack of preparedness. Some people say that responses can come off as rehearsed and insincere, potentially alienating voters who seek authenticity and transparency from their leaders. Now, while some may interpret her style as a strategic way to navigate policy and sensitive topics, the overall effect can be disorientating and unsatisfying for those looking for substantial discourse. As a public figure, Harris faces the challenge of balancing her rhetoric style with the need to provide clear, actionable answers, particularly in an era where political communication is scrutinized more than ever. This dynamic leaves her with a delicate tightrope to walk, as she must engage her audience without losing their trust or interest. This communication style feeds into a broader narrative about her candidacy, reinforcing the perception that she may not possess the strong leadership qualities necessary for the highest office in the land. A lot of people argue that her reliance on repeated phrases and platitudes rather than substantive dialogue reflects a weakness in her campaign strategy. This dissonance between her intentions and the reception of her message ultimately hampers her ability to connect with potential supporters, further complicating her path to leadership. The perception has sparked frustration among those who expect more proactive leadership from her office, raising questions about the effectiveness of her influence in the Biden administration. Supporters, however, argue that her role is often constrained by the broader political landscape, which complicates efforts to drive substantial change. Kamala Harris, in her role as the border czar, has faced significant criticism for her approach to immigration and border security, particularly regarding the surge of illegal crossings and the accompanying influx of dangerous drugs like fentanyl. Many argue that her policies reflect a lenient stance that inadvertently encourages illegal immigration, allowing individuals to exploit loopholes while also contributing to the growing drug crisis in this country. Critics highlight that the lack of decisive action has resulted in an overwhelmed border system with record numbers of migrants entering this country, some bringing with them harmful substances that pose a severe threat to public health. Furthermore, her decision to avoid visiting the southern border until significant pressure mounted raises questions about her commitment to understanding and addressing the complex issues at play. This absence has been interpreted as a failure to engage directly with the realities faced by border communities, fostering a perception of disconnect between her policies and the consequences experienced on the ground. Additionally, Harris's left-leaning policies, such as advocating for more humane immigration reforms and addressing root causes of migration, are often viewed as idealistic, but lacking in practical solutions that could effectively enhance national security. These policies could have a detrimental effect not only on states like New York, which are already grappling with its own challenges related to housing, infrastructure, and public safety, but also on the country as a whole. Critics contend that the permissive stance on immigration and the prioritization of progressive social policies may lead to increased strain on public resources, exacerbating tensions in communities already facing economic hardships. The complexities of border management and immigration reform require a balanced approach that prioritizes security while being compassionate, yet many argue that Harris's current trajectory fails to strike the balance, putting both national security and public health at risk. As illegal crossings surged, many observers noted that her policies seemed to encourage rather than deter unlawful entry into this country. The influx of migrants has brought with it not only an array of social challenges, but also a significant increase in the trafficking of dangerous substances like fentanyl, a potential opioid that has devastated communities across this nation. Critics argue that Harris's approach to border security has been overtly lenient, focusing more on humanitarian aspects while neglecting the critical needs for the robust enforcement needed. The consequences of this neglect are evident in the growing drug crisis that has plagued this state from coast to coast, including New York, where fentanyl overdoses have reached alarming levels. Moreover, Harris's absence from the southern border during her early months as border czar has raised eyebrows. Despite being tasked with addressing one of the most pressing issues facing this administration, she has repeatedly avoided visiting the region, leading many to question her commitment and understanding of the complexities involved. This detachment from reality on the ground has not only fueled skepticism about her leadership, but also has resulted in a failure to grasp the urgency of the situation. While she has participated in discussions and roundtables about immigration, these efforts have often been perceived as insufficient when juxtaposed against the dramatic increase in border crossings and the accompanying chaos. In terms of overall effectiveness as vice president, Harris's track record is marked by a lack of substantial accomplishments. While she has been involved in high-profile initiatives and represented the administration on various issues, critics argue that these efforts have not translated into meaningful change or improvement. Her role in handling the border crisis has been particularly scrutinized, as many believe that her inaction has contributed to the ongoing challenges. Without tangible results to point to, her critics have painted a picture of her leadership who is more focused on rhetoric than action, leading to frustration among those who expected stronger leadership in such a critical area. Harris's time as Attorney General in California further complicates her legacy. During her tenure, she faced backlash for policies that some claim exacerbated existing issues within the state. For instance, her approach to criminal justice reform and law enforcement has drawn criticism for being inconsistent. While she championed progressive policies, the outcomes often fail to deliver the transformative change that her constituents were seeking. Critics assert that these missteps have not only hurt California, but could also be indicative of her approach at the national level, raising concerns about her ability to effectively govern and make impactful decisions. Harris's left-leaning policies have also sparked debates about their implications for New York and the country at large. Her advocacy for more open immigration policies, while framed as compassionate, may inadvertently strain resources in urban areas already grappling with housing shortages, education challenges, and public safety concerns. New York, as a sanctuary city, has seen firsthand the repercussions of such policies, with rising costs and pressure on social services. Many argue that her progressive agenda prioritizes ideals over practical solutions, risking further alienation of constituents who feel their voices and needs are not being met in favor of broader ideological goals. In summary, Kamala Harris's handling of border issues, coupled with her broader political record, represents a concerning picture of a leadership that many believe is misaligned with the needs of the American people. A failure to visit the border, the rise in illegal crossings and drug trafficking, and her perceived effectiveness as vice president raises questions about her ability to navigate complex challenges. As her left-leaning policies take shape, the potential consequences for states like New York and the nation as a whole cannot be ignored. We feel it every day, as it can lead to further strife and division at a time when unity and effectiveness in governance are paramount. Kamala Harris's potential presidency raises concerns about her effectiveness and decision-making abilities, particularly given her track record as vice president. Many argue that her approach to pressing issues like immigration and border security have been overly idealistic and disconnected from the realities faced by everyday Americans. For instance, her reluctance to take a strong stance on border enforcement has contributed to the ongoing crisis, including the surge of illegal crossings and the accompanying of drugs into this country. The tendency to prioritize progressive ideals over practical solutions suggests that as president she might struggle to implement effective policies that address the complex challenges facing the nation. Harris's history in California demonstrates a pattern of decision-making that could hinder her effectiveness as president. During her time as Attorney General, she faced criticism for policies that many felt did not adequately address systematic issues within the criminal justice system, leading to a lack of meaningful reform. Notably, she faced backlash for her office's use of prison labor, where inmates were kept in detention beyond their release dates to continue providing cheap labor for state projects. This practice not only raised ethical questions about exploitation, but also highlighted a troubling approach to incarceration that prioritized economic benefit over justice. Critics have pointed out that during her tenure as vice president, she frequently employed jargon and broad statements that seemed designed to sound inclusive, but ultimately failed to convey concrete plans. This rhetoric style leaves many questioning whether she has a clear vision for governance. For instance, her discussions on immigration reform often included lofty ideals about comparison and unity without outlining actionable steps or specific policies that would address the complexities of the situation at hand. This lack of clarity could lead to confusion and frustration among both lawmakers and constituents, making it difficult to rally support for her initiatives. Furthermore, Harris's history of not presenting clear, actionable policies raises concerns about her preparedness for the presidency. As she navigates various issues, critics note that her plans seem to focus more on political correctness than on addressing pressing problems. This can create an impression of a leader who is more comfortable in the realm of rhetoric than implementing real change. In an increasing polarized political landscape, the ability to communicate effectively and lay out specific strategies is vital. Without this clarity, Harris risks alienating both allies and opponents, potentially stalling progress on important issues and undermining her effectiveness as a leader. The absence of a well-defined policy, combined with her ambiguous communication style, could contribute to a chaotic and ineffective administration, ultimately hindering the progress that many Americans are seeking right now. As we wrap up this episode of the Brooklynite TV podcast, it's clear that Kamala Harris's approach to leadership raises important questions about her readiness to take on the highest office in the land. From her vague policy proposals to her inconsistent messaging, there are significant concerns about how President Harris would address the complex challenges facing our nation. As always, we encourage our listeners to engage in the conversation and share their thoughts on this topic. Thank you for listening. And considering the upcoming election this November, it's crucial to evaluate the candidates based on their ability to lead with strength, clarity, and decisiveness. Kamala Harris's tendency to offer vague, repetitive responses highlights a significant shortcoming in her candidacy. We need a leader who can communicate effectively and address the complex issues facing this nation head-on right now. Electing her to the highest office in the land could prove costly and detrimental, not just for the United States economy, but also to the well-being of its people. As we look to the future, we must choose someone who embodies the qualities of strong leadership and can articulate visions, qualities that Harris unfortunately does not demonstrate. Donald Trump presents a more compelling case as a candidate for office based on his previous experience as president and his strong demeanor. During his time in office, he demonstrated a knack for decisive action and an ability to communicate his policies clearly. His approach to leadership has been characterized by a directiveness that many appreciate, as it is in major contrast with more ambiguous political rhetoric spewed by Kamala Harris. Trump's experience in navigating complex domestic and international issues, along with his commitment to economic growth, positions him as a candidate who not only understands the intricacies of governance, but also delivers measures that are easily grasped by the electorate. In a time when clear and confident leadership is paramount, Trump's established track record makes him the stronger contender for the presidency of the United States. As we approach this crucial November election, it's vital to vote smarter and consider the direction we want for this country. Donald Trump embodies the strong leadership and decisive action that America needs right now more than ever. His track record shows a commitment to economic growth and a straightforwardness approach to addressing national issues. By choosing Donald Trump, voters can support a candidate who communicates clearly and is dedicated to revitalizing our nation's prosperity. Let's make an informed decision for the future, electing someone with the experience and resolve to lead effectively. Your vote is your voice. Let's use it wisely. Let us make America great again. Thank you for the discussion today. If you found this insightful, like, share, and smash that follow button. Until next time, people, vote smart, and let's keep her far away from the Oval Office. Let's send her packing in November. Thank you very much, everyone. You have a great day.